So we started discussing last week some differences between the mitzvah of Kiddush all year round and the mitzvah of Kiddush Leil Seder. So we all know, probably starting this Shabbos, they're going to be making early Shabbos, early as before the Daven Mincha, before Plag HaMincha. So we know all year round we bring in Shabbos early, all year round Tosefes Shabbos, but during the summer months we actually bring it in significantly early. So, and there's a whole discussion to Taz, Marshal, in terms of could you also finish the Suda early, or do you have to leave a Kazayas afterwards? But we know that the halacha is you could bring in Shabbos early. In fact, they say over the first Tshuva, the Trumas Hadesh, it even discusses bringing in Shabbos before Plag HaMincha. He claims there's a minhag of Talmidei Chachamim during that time, and he remembers them after the meal taking a walk on wherever he lived, by the river, and it said, when they say whether the questions are made up or not, the answers are. They say the Trumas Hadesh, because that's one of the questions they ask in general. Are you allowed to make up shilas in order to be able to give answers to them? So one of the rayas they bring, or those who say yes, it's a discussion, the Achronim, the Trumas Hadesh is one of the rayas. I don't know if everyone agrees that he did, but they quote the Trumas Hadesh, he made up questions, and therefore he made up his own shuvah. So that's a discussion. So either way, he writes that was the minhag of the Talmidei Chachamim, that they used to daven. So clearly they, even well before Plag HaMincha, it seemed that they brought in Shabbos, which obviously isn't the minhag today. And there's a discussion there is an interesting Pnei Yoshua on that topic anyway, he's actually talking about davening Ma'ariv. He doesn't understand why you shouldn't be able to daven Ma'ariv right after Mincha at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He goes into a whole, it's connected Eivarim, Pidarim, and they started bringing them, they started burning them early. So he writes, if there's someone else who wants to be masking with me, I don't see the problem of diving Ma'ariv early. But either way, those are sheets that aren't accepted halacha, but they're good to know, b'shas hadchak and etc. But so our minhag is we don't bring it in before Plag HaMincha, but we bring in earlier Plag HaMincha. So what about Leil Pesach? So the Mechaber writes, you have to wait until nightfall to make Kiddush. And everyone, all the Mefarshim jump on the Mechaber. Why? All of a sudden now, Ma'ishna Kiddush Kol Hashana Mileil Pesach. So that's the Machlokas, the Magen Avraham and the Taz. The Magen Avraham says, because it's a din, there's a halacha, we know, the Gemara talks about comparing the Karban Pesach with the matzah, etc. We all know the halacha of the Karban Pesach is you can't bring it until night. You can't eat it until nightfall. You have to finish it by chatzos. So the Magen Avraham says it's not just the Karban Pesach, but it's matzah, it's all the mitzvahs hayom, and therefore, out Kiddush, you're right, doesn't make a difference. The Mechaber says, you know why you have to wait until later? Because it always happens that way, that the first cup of Kiddush is also the first of the 4 cups, and you have to wait out the din of the 4 cups, not out Kiddush. So that's why the Magen Avraham says the pshat in the Mechaber. The Taz says nothing doing. Daled Kosas, you don't have to wait. The Gemara only talks about matzah, other mitzvahs, Daled Kosas. That's the Machlokas Magen Avraham and Taz, whether to include Daled Kosas regarding, are they one of the things that have to be done during nightfall until Chatzot? So the Taz says no. There's no problem with that. It's a totally different issue. So we know the Erev Tilchul Matzos, or today matzah takes the place of the Karban Pesach. So we have a principle of Kiddush b'makam Suda, which normally means you make Kiddush in the place where you eat. But the Taz extends it to Kiddush. It has to be the Zman Haroy or Suda. Has to be the time that's fit for eating. So if the meal is the matzah, and the matzah can't eat until nighttime, that's why the Mechaber says I can't make Kiddush. Because I'll be lacking in Kiddush b'makam Suda, whatever din d'Rabbanan, whatever that din might be, and therefore I'm not Yotzei Kiddush, I have to go ahead and make Kiddush over. So according to the Taz, it has to do with Kiddush b'makam Suda. You have to wait until Layl. According to the Magen Avraham, then Kiddush is fine to din and Daled Kosas. My nafkamina. So one nafkamina is, if you did make Kiddush early, do you have to repeat Kiddush? According to the Taz, yeah, you weren't Yotzei Kiddush. But according to the Magen Avraham, Kiddush you fulfilled, so you have to, whether you make another bracha or not, depending on how long the time gap, but you definitely have to drink another cup. Whether you do it with or without a bracha, that gets into dini hefsek, or like we discussed, unless we assume there's a din that they will kovei a bracha or kos, so then you'd have to make a new bracha as well. But either way, regarding the mitzvah of Kiddush, according to the Magen Avraham, you could fulfill your mitzvah of Kiddush early. Kiddush is no different. It's a din in Dalet Kosas, and Taz says, no, you can't even fulfill Kiddush. The other nafkamina is on the other end. It's a kula and a chumrah. According to the Magen Avraham, you have to finish the Dalet Kosas by Chatzos. According to the Taz, nothing doing. You have all night to drink the Dalet Kosas. Rav Shecht always likes saying over, I think he lives in the Washington Heights near the Breuers community, so I guess when his kids were younger, so people come, kids when they're younger, when you're adults, you try to say the opposite maybe, but when you're kids, you come back to school, my Seder went to 1 o'clock, no, mine went to 2, mine went to 3, mine went to 4, and Rav Shecht, mine finished by Chatzos. And Rav Shecht, you had to finish it's a din in like the Magen Avraham that everything should be finished by Chatzos. So that's the issue here. The Magen Avraham and Taz in terms of how late. According to the Taz, there's no issue. You don't have to. But we assume like the Magen Avraham, at least l'chatchila, that we try to have the Dalet Kosas obviously after nightfall. But also, if you can, to also finish the Dalet Kosas by Chatzos. The minhag seems, many people seem to have a minhag to finish later, but that's where Rav Shechter was machbid to finish his Seder. He said you could do the Chag Gadya, the other stuff afterwards, but in terms of the Iker, whatever the Iker Haggadah is, that should be finished by Chatzos. If you want to continue learning, go ahead, but you should finish the din of the Seder by Chatzos.
But you normally say you have to have the Afikomen by a certain time?
Yes, that's also, so Afikomen they assume by Chatzos. That's because the matzah is compared to the carbon Pesach.
Yeah.
But if you go with the Magen Avraham, so that means not only the Afikomen, but the third and fourth cup also has to be finished by Chatzos. Again, most people, if they, especially now with later, so minimally you should finish the Afikomen by Chatzos. If you want to be machmer for the Magen Avraham, like Rav Shechter felt you should be. Obviously the minhag seems not that way. People finish much later. But at least the Afikomen, which could be a mitzvah daraisa, depending on what you hold, the Iker Chi of a matzah is the matzah eat in the beginning or the Afikomen. But that's what, so that'd be a nafkamin in both areas, it's a kula and a chumrah. According to the Magen Avraham, you can make Kiddush early, but you have to finish your Dalet Kosas by Chatzos. I guess it fits in well. You're making Kiddush early. In fact, it's an issue like in nursing homes. So it depends, obviously, how early. So Rav Shechter says overall, so regarding nursing homes, again, depends how early it is. He was asked an easier question. Obviously, they will wait, it's only about a 15-minute, half an hour before nightfall. He said, you know what they should do? Let them sing the Chag Gadya, the Echem Yodea, wake them up. And then, okay, when Seitz comes, then you could start with Kiddush. Most cases, it's not that simple. They start eating at 5:30.
And Seitz comes or when Shkia comes?
The Mechaber says, in his case, Mechaber says Laila. So maybe you take the early Shita of, at least take the 20-25 minute Shita maybe. Then you can start relying on what's considered Laila when you need the coolers. But he was just saying...
I'm not asking what time Seitz is. I'm saying, are we shooting for Shkia or for Seitz?
No, we're shooting for Seitz. Shkia is sunset, and the Mechaber writes, you shouldn't make Kiddush until Laila. So what time is Seitz? So then you could have and we do have a major discussion at what time is Seitz. But for the Mechaber, it's mashma, you have to wait until Laila. Obviously, Shkia is better than before Shkia. But I'm saying is the simple reading of the Mechaber is Laila.
But the simple reading of the Mechaber, we know we don't hold like the Mechaber when it comes to night.
No, but I know. So I'm saying whatever we pass like the Mechaber that we wait until Laila, it doesn't have to be his Laila.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm saying so that we go whatever the definition of Laila is.
Like the Gra. So
yeah.
So that would be Shkia. That would be what we call Shkia.
No, that's not. According to the Gra, 13 and a half minutes in Yerushalayim is Seitz, and then depending, again, as I said, the earliest sheets you'll have, Aliyah Levi, depending on again where you are and what time of the year, you're looking 20, 25 minutes after sunset. But that's like the most coolest shita. And usually, on mitzvahs deraisa, we try to be machmer if we can. But again, you don't have to wait until 90 minutes or 72. If you wait the classical, the Young Israel special, usually like 42 minutes, something like that. Then you don't have to. You don't have to be machmir more, because the whole point is you want the kids to be up. You want to start the seder as soon as possible. You just don't want to, start it too early. So if you're getting there early, to start singing Chagadah, maybe they'll think they missed the Haggadah. But that's what he says, Laila, whatever Laila means. So they point out that the Taz is Rishitason on the Machlokas him and the Marshal. The Taz holds you could finish the meal. He says, because what do we do when we make Kiddush early? So obviously the Taz holds you need Kiddush b'makam Suda. So he holds obviously you could eat the Suda before, even during Praga Mincha, even finish the meal before Shkia. But she tells him that in order to be Yotzei Kiddush, it has to be, if he held his Mana Suda with Seit, he wouldn't be able to make Kiddush. So the Taz is Rishi Tasson, the Taz here by Leal Pesach of Kiddush b'makam Suda is Rishi Tasson with the Taz all year round. He says let's say if it's Friday night, you're making early Shabbos, according to the Taz, you could finish, you don't have to, usually it's not an issue, but you don't have to wait until nightfall to finish your Suda. You want to be machmir like the Marshal, you can, but according to the Taz sheet, there's no Indian. Kiddush b'makam Suda is now, and you could, whenever you finish your meal, if you want to take your walk, you can even start early after Praga Mincha and take your walk and still be light out. But from the Tumas Hadesh, he made it sound like they daven a couple of hours before, even before Praga Mincha.
He said with Magna Ram, he didn't say, it's funny, he didn't say you could make Kiddush before, because the Shulchan says you still...
No, I'm just saying, b'di'evet it comes out, like, the Magen Avraham, he's saying the reason why once you have to wait for the Dalakos, that you should wait for Kiddush also. He's saying, but b'di'evet, if he doesn't spell it out, I'm just saying based on the Magen Avraham, if you made Kiddush, Pashas you'd be Yotzei, but you just be lacking in the Dalad Reb. He doesn't know, but even according, everyone agrees you should wait until Laila. I said there's a Tosfos Harash I point out who says that he's one of the Rishonim who says that actually Tosefes Yontif makes it Laila Mamish, even for the Karban Pesach, even for the Matzah. We don't pass in that way, but we said that's the Shita one could rely on. That was one that, so the one nafkamina was, could you make Kiddush early or not? So all year round we do Pesach, we don't. The second nafkamina we gave was in terms of who has to drink. So because Tosfos writes, Maishna Kiddush Mikol Hashana, that Tosfos writes, at least in the Havamina, that one person, it's like on Kiddush, one person makes Kiddush, everyone listens, so too Leil Pesach. The Rambam says, no, everyone has to drink. What was in the Kudas HaMachlokas? So the Brisker Rav says, the Tosfos holds, it's a din of bracha al kos. Chazal said you have to make a bracha al kos 4 times in the meal, and once you make Bor Priya Guffin, you have to drink. But the drinking, the primary is the bracha al kos. Drinking's incidental, and the Rambam says no. The ikar is shtiyas dalet kosas, and therefore, if the ikar is drinking, you can't say shomei hakahona. If it's a mitzvah of dibor, you could say shomei hakahona, and one person could listen and one person could drink, like we do every Friday night. But the Rambam holds that no, it's a mitzvah of chovat shtiyah, and so therefore our minhag seems to take in both shitas, because on one hand we paskin that everyone has to drink, and as I said, the Sephardi shita is you only make 2 Borei Priya Guffins, on the first cup and then on the third cup. So we make on every cup, so we take both shitas, we follow Tosfos, we have Chazal Koveya Bracha on the 4 parts of the Seder. And we also go with the Rambam that there's a chi of shtiyas dalet kosas and everyone drinks. So that's the second option. All year round, it's enough to listen to the head of the household, make Kiddush, and you don't have to drink either. Make her adin. If you want to, you can have a Friday night. You don't have to drink.
You don't have to drink.
No. It's a hit if you want to. And most people they pass it out, but make her adin. As long as the person making Kiddush drinks enough, then no one really has to drink. The Shabbos morning Kiddush might be different, but the Friday night Kiddush, the briskas are machmer from Shabbos morning Kiddush, because there might be a berachas hanenin and everyone should drink. But Friday night, everyone's in agreement that you don't have to drink. However, Leil Pesach, we paskin like the Rambam that we have to drink. The third nafkamina we gave is how much do you have to drink? So the Brisker Rav says it's because shitason. Tosfos says you have to drink a rov revius. In other words, assuming the cup is 4 ounces, you got to drink the cup has to hold a revius, and then you have to drink. On a mitzvah deraisa we assume 4.2, on a mitzvah derabanan 3.3. So you have to just drink, not a lot, a little more than 2 ounces maybe, a very small amount to be yotzei. And the Rambam said, no, you got to drink the whole cup. Of course, we have a principle, ruva kakulo, if you drink most of the cup, it's like the whole cup. So the Brisker says it's a shitas, and the Rambam holds the mitzvah is drinking a cup. So you got to drink a cup, ruva kakulo. The Tosfos says there's no chi of shtia. It's a chovas bracha, and therefore the same amount you have to drink on Kiddush every Friday night, that's the same amount you have to drink on Pesach. We pass like the Rambam that we have to drink at least rov kos, l'chatchila the whole cup. And they point, and that's why it's a good idea that not to have too big of a cup. Make sure it's big enough that it holds the revius, but not too big, because if it's a 15-ounce mug, it depends how you hold your liquor, or we'll see whether you're having wine or grape juice. So you'd have to drink rov of that. So that's at least l'chatchila, like the Rambam. And that was the third. So that was the 3 nafkaminas. A fourth nafkamina is, what about the issue of what could you use for the 4 cups? So are you allowed to use grape juice for the 4 cups? Does the dafka have to be wine? So it's interesting, Machlokas Rav Moshe and the Rav, but just going back a bit, the Gemara in Brachas talks about it, what bracha you make on grape. Like obviously grapes you make a boer priya 8, but there's a halach in Hilchos Brachas that if you boil something, so again the different rules. Sometimes the mishtana can make it better, worse, etc. But when it makes it worse, the halacha is you cook a vegetable, so it could be a shahakol niyabidvaro. So that's Rashi sheet in Brachas. You cook wine, yayim avashol, the bracha is shahako. So according to Rashi, you can't use wine or grape juice for that matter for Kiddush. You can't use yayim avashol. That is because we know you need a boer priyagafen. Part of the definition of yayin is it needs a boer priyagafen. We don't pass it like Rashi. Rov Yishodam say the shinoi, the cooking shinoi isn't enough here, and we assume on yayim avashol and grape juice we do make a boer priyagafen, unless it's made differently, but the norm we assume it has a boer priyagafen. So there's a sheet of the Rambam that the Rambam writes that, well, it's a Gemara. The Gemara says that wine, that only what kind of wine is fit for Kiddush? It has to be wine that could be brought, wine that could be brought al gabi hamizbeach. So we know the yayim avushal could not be brought, and for that matter they point out even really, because it says so you can't put any soor or dvash on any mizbeach, and that doesn't mean dvash, it means any type of fruit juices. So if you put sugar in, that's also a problem. So grape juice, based on that Gemara also would be a problem. You couldn't use that for Kiddush. So the Rambam seems to take that Gemara literally for Kiddush, and the Rambam sheet is you can't use grape juice or yayin revushal for Kiddush. I think the Rav might have been makbid for that shita. But that's the Rav. And Tosfos says, no, that's not what it means. Don't take the Gemara literally. It just means that you can't use spoil wine. Like wine that's going to spoil, but doesn't mean that yayim avushal, for the Mizbeach it was a problem, but for Kiddush it's not. It's not the same halacha from Kiddush to the Mizbeach. So therefore, we do normally assume, most of the poskim assume, like the Bali Tosfos, that we assume that yayin mavushal is not a problem. But there are shitas, there are people who are makbid dafka yayin. It's very, it's hard to find that kind of wine, but I'm sure it's out there. But yayin some are really makbid yayin she'ena mavushal, like the Rambam based on this Gemara. But most assume that no, yayin mavushal is good, and grape juice as well. In fact,
grape juice has got a different issue.
Right, with
grape juice can't ferment. The issue is it has to have the potential to ferment.
Right, so that's another right.
For yayin.
Right, so that's another Gemara, right, where they point out that let's say you don't have wine, they take grapes, squeeze them, and let them ferment. Right. So therefore, someone would say, but if you took it before that's the question. So grape juice, they say, it's the F-sharp to ferment it. Since the way it's made, it can, therefore, some say you can't use, right, within that, forget a totally different reason. Besides that reason, grape juice isn't good. That's what so it comes out, according to Ramosha's makel on Kiddush all year round. He says you could use yayin mavusha or grape juice. He assumes, grape juice is okay for Kiddush. However, he says for Daled Kosas, he says it's more machmer. Else the Daled Kosas, you have to use wine. Because we know Pesach is derech cheirus. We're showing our cheirus tonight. And therefore, we'll see he takes a more objective type of view of what cheirus means. And he says it has to be an intoxicating beverage. He says dafka, for the Daled Kosos, you have to use wine, but all year round, grape juice is good. And he wants to bring a raya from the Gemara or Yerushalmi that says this rabbi drank the 4 cups of wine and he had a headache until Shavuos. They say, so why did he drink wine? It must be because he had to drink wine. Others say he had to drink wine. No, don't want to bring a raya. See, if he didn't drink grape juice, he drank wine. So the answer is they didn't have grape juice then anyway, so that wouldn't be a raya. But others say that Gemara is not a Rav. That's Ramosha's sheet. Thus Ramosha says that wine, Kiddush all year round, he's mako on yayin mavusha on grape juice, but not on Daled Kos. And the Rav says, the Rav's the opposite. The Rav was makbid on Kiddush, I think specifically Kiddush, not like Havdalah and other things, because the Gemara only says about Kiddush, even though according to the Rambam, Zachar and he connects Kiddush to Havdalah. One could discuss if you should be makbid, but the Rav seems to only be makbid on Kiddush, because that's what the Gemara just mentions. So the Rav said no, that all year round he's mako, that he's makber on Kiddush. I think his meaning was to use yayin for sure, perhaps even yayin shein mavushal. On the first cup he would have yayin, because out Kiddush he says you need wine. However, he says, or he was makber for those sheets. He says on the other 3 cups, when he got older and it was harder for him to drink, originally he always drank wine. Everyone agrees if you can drink wine and you like it, you should drink wine. The question is, if you don't like wine, how much tircha do you have to go to drink wine versus grape juice? So Ramosha says a big tircha. You have to have a headache for the next 7 weeks. But the Rav said no. Really, for the Kiddush, I have another reason I'm machmer. About Daled Kosos, he says the Rambam writes you need a shtiya areva. You need a drink that's pleasant. And therefore, as he says, it doesn't make any sense. I'm showing you my cheirus tonight. You tell me I have to drink something I don't like? It's the first time I'm free. Let me do something I want to do. So it seems to be an issue, Ramosha, the Rav. How do you view the mitzvah as well of cheirus in terms of is it an objective thing, like the Ramosha seems to say, an intoxicated beverage? That's by definition, free people, malachim, they drink wine. Nothing more. I don't care what you like or not. Tonight you're a male, you're going to like it, you're going to drink wine. And Rav said no. Shtia reva. Of course, if you like wine, great. But if not, there's nothing wrong with keeping, drinking grape juice, etc. So it comes out according to Ramosha, we have another distinction of Kiddush all year round, and we also have Rav in the other direction. But so according to Ramosha, Kiddush all year round, you could use, grape juice, etc. But he says, but the Daled Kos is Real Pesach, one has to use wine. And the Rav has also a distinction, but in the other direction. That would be another difference between going to Rav Moshe. He's more machmir in that issue because of al tcheirus. That's what you have a similar dispute, or I say it's similar. There's a whole issue of haseba in general. So there's a Rav Yada Bisman Hazeh. We no longer have to recline anymore because who reclines? And then there's Ramah quotes it by Nashim, that maybe then women don't have to go back. There's a whole shtickle Torah on that. Why should women be different? But it seems to be a similar in the Kudas HaMachokas here. Right? So the Rav Yad is saying is it's a subjective thing, like the Rav. In other words, as I'm free tonight, I'm so uncomfortable. No, I don't care. You have to. I'm telling you I'm defining what comfortable means. And what's derech cheirus, and I don't care how uncomfortable you are leaning on the left, that's cheirus. And And the other shita, and that's what that's the minute we recline whether we like it or not. And the Rabbi seems to be going with more subjective chayris, and no one reclines today, so therefore there's no need to go ahead and recline anymore. So that seems to be a similar issue by the wine. If you don't like wine, do I have to drink wine? So until another naf. Yeah.
Did they talk about mixing grape juice and wine?
Yes, so actually, I think Rav David Feinstein quotes from his father. So he says, you're allowed to mix, he agrees, you're allowed to put it, I don't have the exact percentages down, but he says you're allowed to mix a little grape juice into the wine. That's what, even according to, if you're going to be machmer for a Moshe shita, it's okay, he says, if you pour a little bit of grape juice into the wine. Rav David has, I think, in his Haggadah, he gives the exact, whatever the exact measurement is. So a fifth nafkamina is, what about the mitzvah of haseba? We know all year round many stand for kiddush. My minig stands up, and even when I'm sitting down to drink, I don't recline all year round. Leil Pesach, the difference is that we recline. In other words, not only are Chazal concerned about how much I drink, but they're also concerned in the manner that I drink it. So in fact, there's a Gemara in Arvei Pesach on Daf Kuf Ches. The Gemara goes through the mitzvah of Aseba regarding other mitzvahs. So first the Gemara starts off, we'll come back to Daled Kosas in a minute, but the Gemara starts off on matzah. The Gemara says matzah sarach haseba, mara ain't sarach haseba. Matzah needs, because matzah is derech eres and mara doesn't. So what happens, so everyone agrees, what happens if you don't recline? So according to Rabbi, it's not an issue. But putting the Rabbi aside, Tosis is mesupik. He said if you eat the matzah and don't recline, to have to go back and eat again. So Tosis is mesupik. This issue, whether Tosis is mesupik, is a machlokas Rush versus the Rambam. The Rush writes that if one doesn't recline, they have to go back. They quote he has the Gemara over there. It says a waiter who eats his kizayis matzah has to eat a reclining. The implication being if he doesn't recline, he has to go back. And the Brisker Rav's understanding of the Rambam doesn't spell it out. That's what we'll see. There'll be other opinions in the Rambam. But the way the Brisker Rav understood the Rambam, you don't have to go back. So the Brisker Rav said, what is the issue? What is the machlokas Rambam? What's the doubter? What's Tosis Mesupik about? It's the machlokas Rambam and the Rush. And the Brisker Rav says is, how do we view the mitzvah of haseba? How do we view the mitzvah of reclining? In other words, is haseba an independent mitzvah? We have a mitzvah of matzah, mara, dalikosis, an independent mitzvah of haseba? Or no, haseba is not an independent mitzvah. It's a detail within the mitzvah of matzah, or we'll see the mitzvah of yayin. So he says that's the machlokas. The Rush holds the mitzvah haseba is part and parcel of the mitzvah of matzah. You can't separate the two. So if one eats matzah without reclining, you haven't fulfilled your mitzvah and you have to go back and eat another piece of matzah. The Rambam seems to write, you do haseba the whole meal. He doesn't link it to the specific mitzvah. It's an independent mitzvah, and that's how the Rambam would learn the Gemara. The waiter who eats his kazayit's matzah doesn't recline, matzah he gets, it's mitzvah reclining he doesn't get. So that would be the machlokas Rambam Rush, how you'd learn the Gemara. But that seems to be the issue in Tosfos, whether we say matzah is part and parcel of the mitzvah, it's inherent, and therefore if you don't go back you have to do it again, or it's independent. Others want to disagree with the Brisker Rav and say no. Everybody agrees, even the Rambam agrees, if you eat matzah and don't recline, you have to go back. I said, if that's true, then what's the machlokas in Rambam and the Rush? So they say, you know what the machlokas is? The question is, why do you have to go back? Everyone agrees you have to go back. The question is, why do you have to go back? In other words, what's lacking? When I eat matzah and don't recline, where's the chisara? What's lacking? So is it the two ways of looking at it? Do I say, I'm lacking in the mitzvah of matzah? That Chazal aren't only concerned with how much I eat, but they're concerned in the manner I eat it. Just like if I don't eat a kazayis, I'm not yotze. If I don't recline, I'm not yotze. It's a detail I'm lacking in my mitzvah of matzah. Or no, I say no. That haseba is the main mitzvah over here we're concerned about. Haseba is the matzah you fulfilled. It's haseba we're worried about. But how do you give haseba chashivas? You don't want to do haseba in a vacuum. By doing haseba, but the matzah, wine, whatever mitzvah we're talking about, that gives credibility to the haseba. That's the machlokas Rambam and the Rush. Everyone agrees you go back, but the question is, what are you lacking? And according to the Rush, you're lacking out the mitzvah of matzah. Or according to the Rambam, the chisar is in haseba. My nafkamina. If you have to go back anyway, who cares? So they dig up a couple of nafkaminas. So one nafkamina would be is, let's say you ate the matzah and didn't recline. So everyone agrees you have to go back. So the question is, would you make another bracha? So according to the Rush, they say you would. You're lacking in your mitzvah achila. You have not fulfilled your mitzvah achilas matzah, and therefore it's like you didn't eat anything. You have to go back and make a bracha. According to the Rambam, you fulfilled your mitzvah of matzah. The only reason you're eating another piece of matzah is out to give the haseba credibility, and therefore there's no need to make a bracha because matzah you fulfilled. You're only lacking in the mitzvah. Or a similar machlokas, similar nafkamina would be is, let's say, same thing, you eat the matzah without reclining, so you have to go back. And now you're about to eat the matzah, and you get a knock on your door, and your Rebbe walks in. Your Rebbe Muvak, whatever the whole discussion in the Gemara, when you don't recline, which Rebbe. So whichever sheet that we're going to take, that person walked in now. Whether it's your Rebbe Muvak, your Rebbe, let's assume the halach is now, you don't recline, it's not covered, but your Rav, so you don't recline in front of your Rav. So now what? So I go ahead. So according to the Rush, I have to go ahead and eat the matzah without reclining. And according to the Rambam, there's no point in eating the matzah. Matzah already fulfilled. I'm lacking in the chiyuv haseba, but I can't recline anyway. So therefore, it's similar. Reminds me, it's a dimyon to the famous Shiloh we just had Rosh Chodesh. If a person forgets mincha, not forgets mincha, you daven. If you got mincha the last day of Rosh Chodesh, there's nothing to talk about. You got to daven Ma'ariv twice. But the big Shiloh in the Rishonim is, if you daven mincha, you left out Yalav Yavo, and now it's Rosh Chodesh is over. Like this Tuesday afternoon, you daven mincha, you left out Yalav Yavo, and now you remembered it's nighttime. What do you do? So that's a machlokes in the Rishonim Chavav Amabez's brachas. Rabbeinu Yehuda, the Balitosis, that is in the Gemara. He says you don't have to go back, and the other Rishonim say you have to go back. So why is Rabbi Yehuda says, what's the point of going back? What's in the Kudas HaMachlokes? According to Rabbi, again, how do we view a tefillah without Yalav Yavo? So Rabbi Yehuda's shita is, a tefillah without Yalav Yavo is a tefillah. What am I lacking in? The Chiyuv Haskara. And Chazal said, I can't just do a Chiyuv Haskara in a vacuum, I have to do it in the context of the Shemona Esrei. The only reason I'm repeating Shemona Esrei is I can get the Yalav Yavo in. But Rosh Chodesh is over, so I can't do Yalav Yavo, hence there's no point of davening. Again, that's the Rabbeinu Yehuda. And the Rif says you have to go back, because he says, Tefillah without Yalav Yavo is nothing. You didn't daven, it's no different than someone missing Mincha completely, and therefore you have to go back. So it seems to be a similar dimyon in terms of, if you're lacking in the mitzvah of matzah, that's like the Rif, so you didn't get credit for Tefillah, you have to go back and daven. But if you go like Rabbi Yehuda, you got credit for Tefillah. What's the point of repeating it? That seems to be similar here, in terms of this, if your Rebbe walks in and you can't recline, so therefore, according to the Rush, you haven't fulfilled your mitzvah matzah, you still have to go back. And according to the Rambam, there's no point. Yeah.
According to Rambam, let's say you don't recline when you're eating, so you haven't done the reclining part properly, so you have to go back and eat.
No, so then, well, according to the Rambam Lechatchila says you should be reclining the whole meal. So again, it gets into a discussion how Ikari he assumes that's savor, but there's no shita like that says you have to have some more boiled chicken and flanken or whatever you're eating. Lechatchila, the Rambam sheet is you should recline. The point is you have derech eretz, but no one says you have to go back and eat your chicken over or fish or whatever you're eating. But
I know, but that's where it kind of falls down because we're saying the ikr is to lean. So what do you
no, but
you need something
because the definition of the sud is eating the matzah. In other words, the whole meal, but al pi halacha, the sud means the matzah. So that's why b'diavad, if you need the matzah, then you have to go back again, unless you want to assume the ram, depending on which lamdish you want to take. Even if you assume that haseba is part and parcel of the matzah, but no one says it's part and parcel of the other part of the meal.
That argument I understand, but when you say it's an independent thing and it doesn't work without the matzah, that I can understand.
No,
it works without the.
No, it's independent mitzvah. So therefore, anytime. So if I recline for an hour out of 5 hours, I get to. In other words, it doesn't mean. He says you should recline through the whole meal. So you're right. If you didn't recline at all from beginning to end, you might have a problem. But there's no. But if you recline for some of it, and obviously the ikr part is to recline during the matzah.
Okay.
But so.
So if you recline for the matzah, not the yain, as an example, that would also be okay.
Well, I'll see. Well, we'll get to wine right now. I'm about to get to wine. Yeah. So what about wine? So that the Gemara goes through wine. So the Gemara holds in the name of Rav Nachman. Does one have to? So matzah, we conclude you have to recline, and perhaps even b'diavad, one should, if you can eat another piece, try to remember to eat the matzah reclining, because if you don't, assuming you can still get another piece of matzah down, then you should try to be matzah.
Just for wine or matzah, or sipur or magid too.
Right,
that's a mitzvah of the night.
Right, according to the Rush, it seems to be limited to the food part. According to the Rambam, it's a kiyum of. It's kiyum. It's part of the mitzvah of sipur. That's another machlokas is Rambam. At the end when we say kol shelo omar shot, that's the Haggadah. So it says kol shelo omar shot b'meilo yatzedei chavaso. So what mitzvah? So you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah of matzah, or you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah of sipur. So that's a discussion machlokas rishonim, but in terms of what mitzvah you have to fulfill. But you're right. According to the Rambam, then the same way. So right, according at least to some part during the mitzvah of magid, whether it's the Rabbi Gamliel statement or not, you should have to You should have to recline, and perhaps we can make a chumrah of the week that if one didn't recline during the shalosh advar, you'd have to go back and I haven't seen anyone say it, but if I took it to the lashu, one can entertain that question if we're looking for another chumrah according to the Rambam, we could say along those lines, right? So the Gemara says, what about Dalit Kosos? Quoting the name of Rav Nachman that you need reclining, and they quote in the name of Rav Nachman you don't need reclining. Like today, students come out of a class, the Rebbe said this is kosher, the Rebbe said it's not kosher, this is good. The things haven't changed. So two opinions in Rav Nachman whether you have to recline. And that the Gemara says lo kasha, no difficulty. One talking about two different cups. One is the first two cups, and one is talking about the last two cups. The only little detail is they didn't tell us which one is for which, so we don't know. Is it the first? Which one did he say? So we know he said to recline on 2 out of 4, but we don't know which two. So the Gemara says, "ID by haseba." The Gemara says, okay, since we don't know, therefore recline on all 4. It's interesting that Siv, who this brings down, what's in the Kud. The Gemara goes through different reasons why the first 2, the last 2. But it's interesting that Siv, on what's in the Kudas HaMachlokas, first 2, last 2. So the Torah tells us by Yatzed Elokim that, and the Medrash Rabbah over there in Parashas Peshalach says the Jewish people reclined. When did they recline? When they left Mitzrayim before Kriyas Yamsuf. That's the fact. So that's a given. So the question is the Machlokas in the Gemara Brachas, other places, what is the Iker Gula? When we talk about Gulas Mitzrayim, what are we talking about? When they left B'chatzos HaLayla the next morning, they physically left Mitzrayim, but they were still in danger, or was it after Kriyas Yamsuf when they saw the Egyptians dead? So he says that's the Nakuda here. That everyone agrees they reclined in between. So if you view the Iker Gula as Yetzias Mitzrayim, So then you recline in the last 2 cups because they reclined after. You try to do what they did. And if you hold the Ikagu as Kriyas Yamsuf, then it would be interesting to see how he ties in the Gemara. The Gemara says you recline in all 4. So comes the Ran as the famous Kasha. Isn't the Gemara familiar with the famous principle of the Gemara? Safek Daraisa L'Chumra, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. We know Daled Kostas as well as Aseba are both mitzvahs D'Rabbanan. And we have a principle, a Dal regarding a rabbinic law we're lenient on. So what do you mean we recline on all 4? Recline on 2 out of the 4. That's the kasha of the Ran. The Ran's first answer is much more pragmatic. We'll get to the Lamdish answer in a second. The Mishnah Berurah likes the first answer. He likes extending it. But what does the Ran basically write? Says, Einachanami, you're right. Ma'ikar hadin, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. You don't have to recline in all 4. But it's a milsa which doesn't involve any tircha, or very little bit. It's not a big burden to go ahead and move a little bit to the left and recline. So Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula is a b'diavad. We don't. If you could try to do it, even though it's true Safek D'Rabbanan, if you didn't do it, you're okay. But it's not a big deal. That's what the Gemara says. ID, but Mikra din, you're right. So, and that's what the Mishnah Berurah writes. This is true for all mitzvahs. When we shouldn't l'chadchil, we rely on Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula. If the case where we could try to get out of that Safek, so we should try to do it on something which doesn't involve a tircha. That's the first answer to Ran. The second answer to Ran is much more lumdus. He says, and he likes the second one better. He says the famous Ran is we don't say Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula b'makam Tarte D'Sasri. Tarte is true. Sasri is contradiction. That's just the principle. Like speaking of early Shabbos, the classical example of Tarte D'Sasri is, we know, the Gemara tells us in the 4th parak of Brachas, the Machovas Rabbi Yehuda Chachamim. When is the last time to daven Mincha, and the earliest time to daven Ma'ariv? So Rabbi Yehuda says you could daven Mincha up until Plag HaMincha, so on a 6 to 6 day, an hour and a quarter before sunset, so 4:45, and right after 4:45 you could daven Ma'ariv. And the Chachamim say no, you could daven Mincha until sunset, and then whatever, wait until Seif, but at least after Shkia. So let's say you summon daven's Mincha at 5 o'clock. So they're taking the Chachamim's Mincha, and then they daven Ma'ariv at 5:15. They're taking Rabbi Yehuda's Ma'ariv. So that's a Tarte D'Sasri, because you can't daven Mincha and Ma'ariv in the same time zone. Mincha is screaming out its daytime. Ma'ariv is screaming. That's why you should. That's what they try to do, or you should. Is let's say we're early Shabbos now. You try to see when Plag HaMincha is, and then you start Mincha, whatever, 10, 15 minutes, depending how long depends how much and how hungry you are and what a rush you are. But in some places, I wouldn't mind them starting a half an hour before Plag HaMincha, because it takes them, if you have a Karlbach minion, it takes a long time to daven Kabbalah Shabbos. So in Hamilton, I wish they daven a half an hour to 45 minutes before Plag. But whatever the case may be, the halakha is you have to get Mincha in before. And then, obviously Kabbalah Shabbos isn't, but, it makes sense to get Kabbalah Shabbos in before, but obviously you don't have to. There's no din of Kabbalah Shabbos before, so at least get Mincha in before Plag HaMincha. So that's why you should try to, that'd be a Tarte D'Sasri. So there's a further discussion, maybe Friday night's different, and that's one distinction we're not going into now. And also, maybe if the choice is Tefillah B'Tzibur versus davening by yourself, then you have a Machovas HaPoskim. Is it better to involve yourself in a Tarte D'Sasri where you get Tefillah B'Tzibur, or to daven b'yechidus and not? That's a further discussion among the poskim. So either way, to the Ran writes, you can't apply. The first answer was you're right, really Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, who will being machmir. The second answer is no, you can't apply Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, because it's what you call a Safek HaShakol. In other words, I have no reason. There's 2 compelling reasons for the first 2 cups to last. I have no reason to pick one over the other. So I can't say, well, I'm going to pick the first 2, not the last. I can't do that. So therefore, what's going to happen? The Ran says, I'll get to the first 2 cups. I'll say, great. Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, I'm not reclining. I'll get to the last 2 cups. I'll say, Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula, I'm not reclining. You're mavat to the whole mitzvah haseba. You're okay the mitzvah haseba. So we know that's definitely wrong. When you're going to apply Safek D'Rabbanan L'Kula and come out with the wrong answer, everyone, the Gemara said you need, Rav Nachman said you need 2 out of 4. So if I'm going to apply Saved Rabbanan Kula and come out with the wrong answer, that, there is no Klal Saved Rabbanan Kula, and therefore you have to...
Is it because it's a Tarta the Sasra, or because you're Oker or Mitzvah?
Well, it's part of the same thing. I mean, a Tarta Sasri means it's contradiction, doing something wrong. In other words, so I'll get to your question in a second, but different ways of wording the Ran. But there's a famous Beis HaLevi who was asked the following question. He said, "We know Bizman Hazeh Machlokas Yishonim, we pass in Shemitah's D'Rabbanan today." So someone has the Beis HaLevi, is a Machlokas the Rambam and Gaonim, how you count Shemitah and how you count Yovel. So each year is really a suffix with the Machlokas Rambam and the Rambam and the Gaonim. So I think if the Rambam says to follow the Gaonim, and the Rabbi says no, the Rambam's right, don't listen to the Rambam, listen to what he said, what he wrote, but it's the only time the Rabbi passes like the Rambam and not the Rambam passing like the Rambam. But either way, so somebody asked him, so you shouldn't have to keep Shemitah today. Suffix Shemitah's D'Rabbanan, Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula. So Beis HaLevi said, or if he didn't say, I'm saying it, the Shol did not learn the Ran and Arvei Psachim, because that's what the Beis HaLevi tells them. He says, you can't apply Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula, because every year you're going to say Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula, you'll be uproot the mitzvah, there won't be a mitzvah Shemitah. You know that one of these years of Shemitah, by doing Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula, you're eliminating, so therefore, he says you don't apply Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula in that scenario. And that's why, so that's the answer of the Ran, of why I divided by Aseba, yeah?
Why don't they use the answer when they're talking about Rav Nachman, say, either the first or the second two is correct. So if let's say the first one's correct, and you recline on the second two, so you've done nothing. Because the first one's where you got to recline. So because of that, if you had to go kula and say, okay, you choose either first or second, 50% of the people would be doing it wrong.
Right, so the Shiltei, yeah, very good. Very good. So the Shiltei Giborim has a similar answer to you. He says, he has a third answer. He says, when we have a klal elu divro kim chayim. So Machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, we pass like one, but no one's wrong. So when do we say elu divro chayim? It's Machlokas 2 different people. But if it's 2 people quoting what Rav Nachman said or quoting what, obviously one of them is right, one of them is wrong. So too, he says over here, you can't say Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula. If Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula, you have a Machlokas, whoever, then we're going to pass in one way. But here it's 2 opinions of the same person, so therefore we can't apply like you're saying, because Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula won't help here because maybe you picked the wrong one. So that's the answer to Shiltei Giborim. Avadia Yosef has an interesting answer in his Haggadah. He quotes someone else. He wants to say, what are you talking about? But the Gemara, so the simple reading of the Gemara is not like he's going to say. Simple reading of the Gemara is, they give reasons you recline the first 2, last 2. Then the Gemara concludes, so we're assuming we're being machmir for all 4. Rabbi just says, no, the pshat in the Gemara is, it's not his own pshat, he's quoting someone else. The Gemara says, we're not passing like Rav Nachman. You're right, Rav Nachman says this, okay. Then the Gemara quotes, we pass in all 4 against Rav Nachman. It's not the simple reading of the Gemara, but that's his interesting pshat. He quotes the Gemara in Brachas about Birchas HaTorah. So he says there's no kasha. We're passing in Torah's Vadai. We're passing against Rav Nachman. And you're right, it would be Suffix D'Rabbanan Wakula maybe, but he learns the Gemara. The Gemara is not passed. The fact that Gemara is saying to recline on all 4, it's not like Rav Nachman, and therefore he says Torah's Vadai. So that's the Beis HaLevi has another pshat, but that's the Yisod over there. That's the famous Yisod of the Ran.